Crime Curious is a true crime podcast that takes an in-depth look into real cases through the lens of a trained investigator and former prosecutor turned judge.
If you are sensitive to expletives, anatomical descriptions, and accurate descriptions of crime scenes, this podcast may not be suitable for you.
Welcome to Crime Curious. I'm Charnell.
And I'm Megan.
And we have a very, very special episode for you today.
So this is the conclusion of the last two that you've presented to us.
Yes, it is.
Which is our interview with the man himself.
That's right.
Dave Pelzer.
Dave Pelzer. Yes, you guys, he agreed to come on to Crime Curious. We had a fabulous interview with him. And
we fangirled a little.
We did fangirl a bit. He kind of fanboyed back.
He did.
So I appreciated
We'll take it.
that.
Me
yes.
too. It makes you feel good. We're going to shake our gree-gree.
Yep. Shake our gree-gree that we did tell Dave all about.
Oh, yeah. He was super impressed.
That's right. And let me
read his bio.
Read his introduction here before we release the episode of our interview with Dave.
Excited about this.
All right. As an individual who represents overcoming adversity, Dave has dedicated his life helping others to help themselves. As a former Air Force combat air crew member, Dave's job entailed mid-air refueling of once highly secretive SR-71 Blackbird and the F-117 stealth fighter. While on active duty, Dave was selected as California Volunteer of the Year. Dave has received personal commendations from 4 U.S. presidents. Dave was honored as one of the 10 outstanding young Americans and later was the only American to be honored as the outstanding young person of the world. Dave is also the recipient of the National Jefferson Award, which is considered the Pulitzer Prize for public service. Other recipients include Sandra Day O'Connor and Colin Powell. Dave is the author of 9 inspirational books. His books have been on the bestsellers list for well over 13 years combined. A Child Called It Alone has been on the New York Times bestseller list for well over 6 years. Dave is the first author to have 4 #1 international bestsellers and to have 4 books simultaneously on the New York Times bestsellers list. For nearly the last 10 years, Dave has served as a California fire captain in 2 separate districts. During that time, he's been deployed to the state's most horrendous fires. Please help me welcome an individual who believes that our only limitation is ourselves, Dave Pelzer. Welcome, Dave.
Hello, Miss Megan. And think about it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the little geek boy from Nowhereville, and I'm talking to 2 hotties, man. By the way, ladies, I brushed my tooth and combed my hair, and I'm wearing my Tommy Bahama knit shirt just for you ladies.
Oh my gosh,
I love
you got
that.
dressed up just for us.
Oh, baby.
And Dave, while I appreciate the compliment, I can only tell you that my sister, I told her what I was doing today, and she's like, "Are you effing kidding me? Can you get his autograph? I'm such a big fan." And I'm like, "Well, we're on the radio, so it's kind of hard to get signatures."
Thanks, sis. Thanks, okay? You know,
right.
It's so weird in life that, you know, I'd rather be recognized not for the books per se, but I'm very proud that, you know, I got a few accolades, and, you know, I was a fire captain there for a while, and, you know, that whole circle of life thing, you know, and at my age, I'm kind of like an honorary mayor of this small little city, and I just want to be like the ambassador of goodwill and spread good cheer, and hopefully, you know, let people know we're going to be fine. Everything's just one drink at a time, one day at a time.
That's
yeah,
right.
absolutely.
That's right.
Well, you mentioned.
Now, tell me about so you've got a good show. How long have you had your show going?
Go ahead, Charnell.
Oh, we're going into our 3rd year here at Crime Curious. Yeah, and it has turned into quite a little funny thing. Let's introduce Dave to our gree that we shake at the beginning.
We inadvertently became superstitious, Dave.
Yep.
So our listeners started sending us, I call it Gree because I have an affinity for the New Orleans area and actually just got back from there on a work trip on a domestic violence conference. And so people sent us these raccoon bones, and I'll just let you guess which area of the raccoon those came from, but apparently they're good luck in some cultures.
Okay.
And then, this is the stuff that people send us.
They do.
And then
it's weird.
Yeah.
Weird.
What's the weirdest thing that you've ever received?
Let me see. The moron twins from Dallas wanted to kidnap me and wanted my address. They actually called the office to state, we're going to kidnap Mr. Pelzer and have him confess that he's not the real Dave Pelzer we are, even though we're twins.
Good Lord. There's somebody who was having a mental health day.
Yeah, and there's always the Batman jet. Get your Batman jet and find me. I don't know where I'm at, Mr. Pelzer, but you have to find me now.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So you know what? We're doing okay by just getting sent raccoon penis bones.
I think we are. That's where we are with it.
Now, what I'd like to do is be one of your semi-regular guests if it works out.
Oh God, anytime.
We would love that.
Because I try to give out good information, and I try to do it in a loving way, but then a little bit of humor too. Because right now, and you know this more than I do, particularly there's going to be more stress involved, and whether Mr. Trump gets indicted or the Proud Boys remain proud, or there's always an excuse to ignite things. And my job as a firefighter is to put out the fire before it spreads. That's it. Very simple stuff.
I love that. And then from our perspective, Dave, we try to be super non-political because we understand we have listeners from all different walks.
Right.
But the whole point is to present something to the audience that's interesting that they may not have thought of before from different perspectives. Because Charnell, and we do. Yep.
Yes.
And just have
one
fun.
Thing I'll say, because I did research you ladies, I'm going to say this, is we need more good soldiers on the front lines, with shows like this, and just, tell them the truth. I don't have all the answers, but try this, try that, and make them feel comfortable, because it's going to be a ride. Pelzer predicts. Pelzer is all unknowing, all seeing. I predict the next 2 years are going to be a ride. What was that? Betty Davis? Put on your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Yes. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Sometimes we say that at the beginning of the episodes. Buckle up, Buttercup, because this one's going to be bumpy.
Grab your comfort items.
And it's kind of like raising children, in a sense, like, you want to protect your babes the first 8 years, but then the next 10, 20 years, you have them protect themselves through knowledge and empowerment.
But people have to make issues out of everything. We use a lot of humor, which seems like it wouldn't coincide with true crime, but truly it does. We do. That's one of our strong suits.
Everything kind of mushes together. What I'll do is this. Let me follow your lead.
Okay.
You can ask me anything you want, and we'll keep it kind of lighthearted.
Great.
Yeah, that's our style for sure.
Also, can I ask you a favor? Please write this down, one of you ladies. Give me your address to both of you, and your sister's name and address, and I'll send you that book, Return to the River.
Oh my gosh! We'll email you as soon as we get done and give you those, Dave.
That book is an amazing book. It's my nod to Christopher Nolan, who will get the next Oscar for the film Oppenheimer. And it's got all these threads about looking at your life's work and decisions you made right and wrong, and yet keep moving forward. And it just happened to coincide with the World of Worlds pandemic.
Okay.
Because that really leveled the playing field, and we'll talk about it on your show. But I would like to get your addresses, because when I'm done with this, I'm on to something else, and maybe you can send me some photos of the two hotties. Okay, I'll put them up there.
Sure.
I'll put them over. What's her name? Who's that lady that got married? She had a new beau. She had a new husband. Every month. Who was that lady? She was married to Billy Joel. Yeah. I'll put you over her.
We'll make sure the lighting is tasteful.
Dave, you're making me blush over here.
Well, actually, I need to see my optometrist.
Oh gosh.
Shoot.
Hey, so Dave, this is Megan again. I want to start with a question. Obviously, it would be easy, and I'm sure in a million interviews that you've done, everybody starts off with the abuse and the neglect, and like, why did you write? A child called it.
Yeah, but
I want to go someplace else with it though before and work backwards.
yeah, whatever you want.
Everything that I've read from you in terms of what you're doing now, and really how you started off our conversation today, because you're very positive, but in a realistic way, to me speaks to resiliency. And so to me, you're not somebody who has this really awful story, although you do. It's more about what you've been able to do because of it. Yeah. So what is your resiliency message, and how did you come about forming your resiliency message?
Well, I think on the latter first, resiliency, people forget this, but everybody has it. It's just a matter, it's kind of like that Star Wars, the Force be with you. Mm-hmm. Everybody overcomes something in their life. And children by nature are very resilient. You can put a kid in a room, you might cry for a few minutes, but after a half hour, an hour, they'll start making a fort or scourging for food or doing something. Per se. We saw that in film. There was a young actor in Steven Spielberg film in one of his first starring roles, Empire of the Sun, Christensen Bale, who played Batman eventually. Yes. And there's a scene in which he has to forage for himself because mom and dad are not coming home. And if you look at everything that happened to me, particularly as a child, happened at the right time. The tumblers came in to connect and play, and I always knew, and we kind of call this the Clark Kent effect. No one really likes Clark. He's a geeky guy. He's a nerd. He doesn't fit in. He's not athletic. And the girls really don't like him. He's just a dorky guy, or so it seems. On the inside, where no one can see, he's faster than a speeding bullet. He comes from a different planet. He wants to do good and be righteous. And it's almost like, too, when you look at these Marvel comic characters, the Batman, Wonder Woman, and so forth, it's always on the inside that shines through. And I knew once I was out of my predicament of being abused and landed in the arms of foster care, I saw things differently than a lot of the kids. And I knew, wow, you guys talk tough and you'd say things, but man, I can kick your butt mentally from here to Christmas. And then I applied that when I was a member of the armed forces. And I always had that go-to. And I kind of lost it a little bit because I was so busy being on the road in my 30s and 40s. And then I rediscovered it recently during COVID that I still have a very strong will. And a lot of people sometimes they get pushed up against that wall, and everything in their life has been simple, dimple, and then, I have cancer. Johnny needs braces, and how are we going to do that? I have COVID, and I can't run away from that. I was lucky that it happened to me early. It was a very hard lesson, but I'm at the age right now, I feel like Robin Williams meets Gran Torino,
right?
in a sense, or Will Rogers. I feel like an elderly statesman, and I act affable, and I have a pretty wild sense of humor.
You do.
But I'm very serious about being of service because right now a lot of people are scared. We're seeing it in crime sprees. We're seeing it in abuse. We're seeing it even in politics per se. In every era or every fraction of our life, there's always something negative. But it's like I kind of tell with my little podcast show, I say every day our kids come home from school is a blessing.
Right.
Every day that we're COVID free is a blessing. My God, when I saw, because I'm a movie buff, I was going to see that new Maverick film last year. When I saw Mr. Cruz introduce the film, he said, thank you for waiting for this. We wanted to give you the best film on the big screen. Thank you. I'm going, yeah, and we thank you. See, everybody helped us during COVID because I thought it was going to be a Mad Max situation, which
Yeah.
hijacking of trucks
Oh,
and food and so forth.
yeah, it felt
But
post-apocalyptic.
Mm-hmm.
we all pitched in together. We helped out our fellow man, our neighbors. We paid respects to people who are doing a great job as they always have. And to me, that's where this country shines,
Dave,
because
tell
this country, in a sense, was formulated to be resilient. I'm just
Yeah.
happy to be on the train.
It sounds to me like you are saying your resilience came from what I call your inner being. Interesting that we're having this conversation because very soon I'm actually going to be starting another podcast and launching another business where I help people navigate life from their inner being out instead of their external being in.
Yeah.
Right. And just like you're speaking to, of learning how to work and discern your life situations from the inside out instead of the outside in, and building that resiliency and knowing that actually everything that you need is already inside of you. You have to simply access it and remember it and
you
apply it.
Yes, because I think part of the thing is, I'm 62 and I was raised, you never said the N word to a teacher. You never said no. You always were respectful
Yes.
of public servants. You were respectful of your elders. But the generations after me, particularly like my before my son was born in his generation, everything was so quick. Relationships, information, credit cards. And it was an external thing, like, oh my God, I got to get this, I got to get that, I want, I need. I had a foster child tell me one time, he was complaining that his foster parents didn't give him a Nintendo. I need a Nintendo. I said, shut up, you don't need a Nintendo. You want
right.
a Nintendo, but what you need is A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And I remember there was a change, shift on how we perceive things. I was in Seattle, given a seminar, and I said the L word in public. Oh, brouhaha. I said, ladies, oh my goodness, oh my
That's
God.
not politically correct,
Run me
Dave.
on a rail. and I didn't understand it, and I still don't understand a lot, but I can see how small little things people forget. It's amazing. I met this beautiful African-American lady. She raised single mom, raised 5 boys, and they all went to college.
Great.
Now let's be simple. We know it's very simple, and it's so easy to be a single parent, particularly a mom.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Super easy.
And come on. Let's add on. Let's go. An African American woman, so easy to do all that.
Right.
And I was so fascinated by it. I said, sweetheart, God bless you. How did you do it? She says, I cannot explain it. I did it. It's done. Get out of my way. And I'm like, I can't. You go, girl.
You know what? That's how I feel about childbirth.
Or raising our children in these times anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
How do you successfully not have them go to jail? I don't know.
I don't know.
But we did it.
Right.
But the bottom line is, we all have something. We've all been wrong. We've all been violated. All of us have had our feelings hurt. We've experienced suffering and loss.
Yep.
I always say, if you had a bad divorce, you can survive a bad argument. If you can survive cancer, you can survive the flu. If we can survive COVID, we can basically do anything, because that put us on a different level that we had to spend for ourselves. Oh my gosh.
I know. You had to spend time with yourself and really pay attention to yourself for a minute, because the world stopped, right?
Take some inventory.
Yeah. And it really changed people. It really, really did.
So Dave, you started your podcast during COVID, right?
Yeah, I was asked, for years I did this internet show, and I'm so proud. And I don't know how many professional motivational speakers can say this. I did a show live from Baghdad.
Oh, really?
A show live from Baghdad. And it was a little bit of SNL. I had little mock skits, and so forth. But I started the podcast show. I was asked to do it for years because, I've traveled a lot, done a lot of public speaking. And I think the internet's a fad. I have a slide rule. I don't trust this technology, man. I've watched Terminator way too many times. I'm scared. And I finally got, kicked in the face and said, do this, because there was so much fear unneeded fear and anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we had COVID, we had this, we had that. And I just wanted to kind of be a semi voice of reason and calm with a little bit of Robin Williams to it.
Right.
Because to me, common sense right now really makes sense. Everybody's looking for, once I get $1 million, if I win Trump Lotto, if I lose 50 pounds, then I'll be happy. Say,
Right.
shut up.
Right.
Be happy now.
Now.
There it is.
Exactly. Because you're
Be
always,
happy now.
it doesn't matter. You're always going to be waiting for the next thing. Okay, so you want to lose 50 pounds to be happy. So you lose those 50 pounds. You're going to find something else to still rely on for your happiness. Okay, well now, now I want to lose.
Again, the external, internal. And the internal is so important to me. Like I've done some, I don't do a lot of the business seminar things. It's just, I'm just too different for them. I do a lot of work in the public service field, teachers and and social services and military. And yet the corporate kids, the boys and girls, Dave, well, how did you do it? How did you do it? You're a success. Well, I just did what I had to do. Step off. Next. It's like fighting cancer. How do these kids do that? How does a child fight cancer? Child doesn't know any better. Just do what you got to do. But It's got to be from the inside. It's got to be that inner drive. There was the former California governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it's great because I can do Arnold's voice better than even his. He's fantastic. It's like whenever I see him, he passes my head and says, "You're the guy that does my voice." I'm going, "I do it better than you." Okay, get out. Get to the chopper. And he has on Netflix. He has a 3-part series called Arnold, and the first part is about bodybuilding. The second part is about the movies, breaking in, and the third part, at the last section, he actually opens up, says, "I screwed this up. I'm an asshole. I did this. I should have done that. Da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. All of my friends are basically dead. I'm still alive." And he said, what we need to do to success in life at this age? Keep moving. Stay busy. Make it happen. And I thought, damn, that is so perfect. Because life is about movement. I think the movie World War Z with our good friend of mine, Mr. Brad Pitt.
I literally just watched that movie 2 nights ago.
And what did he say? Life is about movement. You have to keep moving. Winston Churchill, when you're going through hell, you just keep on going. Clint Eastwood, what did he say? Goodness gracious, dying ain't much of a living, is it, boy? Something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so you have to have that inner drive attitude. And there's never a balance. The cobbler's kids will always be shoeless, per se. That teeter-totter will it's either too much or too little, and that's just life.
Right.
There's no such thing as a perfect life, but you have to make your own happiness. And I got to tell you, ladies, the older I get, I'm a voyeur. I study psychology. I study like a Walt Disney, a Robin Williams, a Timothy McVeigh,
right,
an Adolf Hitler. I study ordinary people, extraordinary people. And I have to say this nicely, is I am the most blessed person I know. I'm the most luckiest son of a gun I've ever come across. But I try to use my luck to help out others. And I try to be, pretty humble. But at the same time, I believe in a certain calling to do something. I was in foster care, and this Doc Brown, psychiatrist, in front of my foster mom and my beautiful social worker, said there's basically no chance in hell for Pelzer. The abuse that he sustained from age 4 to age 8, living in a basement for 6 to 8 years. He can barely talk, he can barely walk. I predict he's going to be dead or in prison by the time he's 18 or 20. And the one thing that really saved me is I thought, shit, if I can survive all that I did without any help and without any training, I'm going to do this. And I actually like the N word. I like the word no. They say you've never joined the Air Force. Really? I hold the rank of Chief of the United States Air Force. I flew the top secret weapon systems. I was involved with the Blackbird program, the spy plane, the stealth fighter. I was a mid-air refueler. Let me see. The worst case of child abuse, I'm California Volunteer of the Year. The ugly little boy, outstanding young American. outstanding young person of the world. And I have the National Jefferson Award. Colin Powell has it, and Sandra Day O'Connor, Supreme Justice.
Yeah.
A boy that everybody wanted to be an astronaut. I would read books in the basement of my cellar where I resided. I'd read Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn, Cabin Boy stories of Treasure Island, and eventually I became an author. Can't believe it. When I retired, I became a firefighter and then a fire captain in 2 separate districts in California.
How did you get beyond the statistic, Dave? Those statistics that they
beyond?
gave you when you were sitting there with that psychologist, with your foster mom, and she's giving you the numbers, right? And then unfortunately, those are the numbers. She was giving you stats. She didn't know you from Adam, but those were the stats.
But at the same time, I understand that roadmap. You know, but then again, too, I mean, my brain developed quicker because when my mom didn't feed me, I had to learn to steal food in a certain way. When she caught me doing this, I would go to that. I had this weird, beautiful mind thing. I was always reading, always studying, always thinking ahead. You know, because that's, I mean, when you're in the basement, what did Nixon say? When you're in jail, that's when you write your best memoirs because there's nothing else to do.
Right.
So I was always thinking, and I saw life in a different lens. In foster care, again, I saw kids doing stupid things that can really harm them in the long run. In foster care, in junior high, I was working 20, 30, 40 hours a week. High school, 40 to 60 minimum. So I was on a different plane. I was trying things that they said I can never do. And I says, well, and that's the thing, too. When people hear the word no, oh, okay, see you later. It says no. No is only for the now. It doesn't mean forever.
Right, exactly.
You know, because people quit when you start quitting on yourself. That's it. You're done.
Yeah.
You're done.
Yeah.
And we see it in struggle, and we see it particularly when people have, you know, they're facing a divorce or a health issue. You know, we see that. But in my case, I had these building blocks as a child, and all I had to do was run up the pyramid. Big deal. Big deal. I remember a story. I was in the Air Force, and I was a swamp cook. You see, the Air Force didn't want a skinny high school dropout foster child. So I just basically got into the skin of my teeth. So I was a swamp cook in Florida in this one squadron, and this one captain picked me up out of the swamp from 3 o'clock in the morning. He drove 3.5 hours so I can get to this base and do tryouts for what's called jump school, paramilitary school. There was like 4 slots. Everybody else had rest and food. I didn't. Everybody else had their running shoes and shorts. I had boots on and thick cotton pants. And the first exercise, you had to run 2 miles. I was in back of the pack, and I saw the turnaround point, and I just put it into gear. I blew everybody away by at least a minute and a half. Then you have to do 35 push-ups and 35 sit-ups in a minute. And guess what? I still failed because I was short by 2 push-ups. Oh. So you know what I did? I made sure I ran every day. I made sure I do push-ups every day. Do 60 push-ups every half hour. And I eventually got the slot, and I eventually graduated. You have to have that inner drive, and you have to know falling down is bad, but you know, get up. That's why we love the movie Rocky,
right?
The original Rocky. We know Rocky knows, you know, everybody knows, his girlfriend knows, he's never going to win against Apollo Creed. Creed's a machine. He's got sponsors. He's got everything all mapped out. It's a business. He thinks he's going to put on a show.
Right.
When Rocky falls and gets up and falls and gets up, Rocky. All of us are Rockies in a sense. You just have to flip the switch. And it's an everyday thing. I mean, I told that when I used to work with kids, I was a counselor in juvenile hall. All right, you had a good day today. You got an A-, but you got to earn it tomorrow and the next and the next and the next.
I have 4 teenage boys, and I love to tell them, you can't just make the wish, you have to do the wish as well.
You have to make it, yes. I mean, you have to do it. You have to have that quiet fire, and you have to know where you come from. I think that's so important. We forget. I always tell people, remember how bad it was in XYZ. You know, whether it was a divorce or you lost your job or you lost a lover or something. When you really thought the world was coming to an end. always remember that moment. So when you're having a good day, you will cherish it
Yeah.
all the more.
All that, yes. I do wonder too if when we speak about resiliency, when you know that you've already been through hell, then when you face your next challenge, you're like, well, fuck, I can do this. Look at what I've already been through. I do think that helps people, whereas sometimes other people have a difficult time coping because they just simply haven't ever had to face trauma or something that has been devastating, to their life, and their whole system shuts down, and it can just flip their world upside down. And it's like they just completely forget that they are sovereign in their own power and ability to change their reality, and so I wonder if, like, just in listening to you talk, I can tell that just your whole journey was very divinely mapped out to help you be a leader at this moment in your life, to tell people, listen, you can remind people, you can get through. You have to do it, but you can get through literally any of the life's ups and downs and battles that are always going to come, right? Life is never going to stop.
I am such a strong believer, and I say it in my little show, I said there's always going to be something, okay? A high tide, a solar eclipse, Johnny needs braces, oh my God, where's the keys? Or I can't unpack this box, or I can't. It's always going to be something.
Yep.
And I think, again, that the field was leveled because of COVID in such a sense, because it affected everybody's mental health in one way or another. But it's I think a lot of people thought, hey, like my son called one time. He says, Dad, work is hard. I didn't know that. What? Work is hard? Dad, marriage is not fun. No. I didn't know that either. Oh my God, you're a genius. Because of a lot of things, a lot of people got things readily. So, I remember Amazon when it was a river. Now people complaining, or my goodness, everything is so instantaneous in a sense, a lot of people didn't work for it. And I'm very proud of the fact that I've accomplished a few things, but if I accomplish one thing properly, I have probably failed it a million times. So you don't want to be narcissistic. You want to just have that in your toolbox, as we say in the fire department. That's a good lesson. Keep that in your toolbox. Learn from it, and at the same time, give people, valuable information that they can use right now.
Yes.
Dave, I want to talk about your books for a minute. So, because I really want to know about your new one that's coming out as well. But starting at the beginning, where were you in your life that you said, okay, this is it. I'm going to write my story. A child call it. I'm going to write the really worst of the worst that happened to me.
Okay, you know what? Now I got to go Tom Hanks on Lieutenant Diane.
Lieutenant.
Here's the thing.
Okay.
I have Forrest Gumped myself into the writing field. A child called it was a thank you letter for my teacher. That was the idea. I gave myself 10 years. Get your act together and thank your teachers, because I was rescued by my teachers. They called the police. There weren't laws to protect kids or those trying to protect kids back in that day. So this was a Mission Impossible rescue mission. So what happened? I said, well, I'm going to give myself 20 years rather than 10. I was a new father, and I was involved in being a counselor in juvenile hall, and you see things, and wow, whatever. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice? Because I had the letter written. It was a 4-page letter, 40-page letter, 80-page letter. And I said, what if I kind of told the story of how these teachers, helped save me, and it, give them the whole, show. And what I'm proud is, I thought the book was published. It was not. There's a difference. It was printed. And I'm so proud to say that book was given to my teachers on the exact date of my 20-year anniversary of being rescued. And I will say that, see, here's the thing, ladies. I'm a romantic. Everything in my life is about romance. Having a cup of coffee, having a glass of wine, talking to 2 hot ladies on the phone. I love to cook. I spend more money monthly on flowers and plants than I do libations, and Uncle Dave loves a good libation.
Right.
So
do we, Dave.
So do Megan and Charnell.
I have a few celebrity photos, politicians, presidents, or actors, and musicians, and the only one that is framed, and it's actually right behind me, is my 4 teachers and my librarian. When they got the first copies of the book, a child called It, and of course it was dedicated to them. And I will say this: that was the #1 book in the world.
It was.
That book was on the New York Times for 6 years. The average stay is 3 weeks.
Right.
And it's just, again, a blessing within a blessing. I was able to use that, to have a voice and just, to hopefully help out.
I can't imagine how profound that must have been for them, Dave, because truly, until they read that book, they didn't have the full story. They didn't know.
And it was so sad, because what I did is I interviewed Miss Constant, one of my teachers, Miss Woodworth, my English teacher, and Mr. Ziegler, my homeroom teacher. He was physically the first male teacher we had ever, and he was very Clint Eastwood-esque. I mean, tall guy and grumbly voice. And I interviewed him on one of the last segments of my book, and that's when he told me why they finally had to pull the trigger, per se, and call the authorities. And I had no effing idea. I just somehow blocked it out. And we were crying in public at this restaurant. I remember, what was that? Line dancing was a big thing. The country went to line dancing. And right in front of me, there was these beautiful people. You can smell the perfume and the sweat, and, look in each other's eyes. And everybody stopped because we were both crying.
Right.
And it's weird, because you have to look at not only what happened to me, but the collateral damage it had on my parents' marriage, my siblings, my neighbors, relatives, and those poor kids in school. Because I would go into school at times and kids would regurgitate. I had thick yellow skin. I smelled. I wasn't allowed to bathe. I was stealing food left and right. And as time progressed with the success of the book, where I would always go back to the exact same school every anniversary, and it became a 1-day, 2-day event. And the last time I went, before everybody retired, it was Pelzer Palooza. I was all over the county, every school, social services, police departments, meeting them there. It was just like I was running for president of the county. And I'm very proud. The second book, The Lost Boy, was also dedicated to my teachers and social services and my foster parents. And it became kind of like a Star Wars thing, because we did the trilogy series, and then I did some self-help books, and then I did a Stand By Me book called Privilege of Youth. But I'm very proud to say this. My book that came out a few months ago is called Return to the River, and it's a very thick book with a lot of threads, like a good Christopher Nolan film.
All right.
And it's a very romantic film. It's a very romantic, romantic book about love and loss. It's kind of got the Casablanca effect in there, and it's about taking inventory of your life, and decisions you made right and wrong, and yet still in the middle of the war of the world's pandemic,
right,
trying to hold it together, even though I kind of gave up on my faith. Not my faith, I just kind of gave up on myself. And then finding that drive in the middle of all this crap, because I was a fire captain in 2 separate districts, 2 hours apart, going back and forth and back and forth. And I have to make an unexpected situation happen, an unexpected divorce, because my wife had moved away to be closer to her family. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, we can't do this anymore, Dave. We love each other, but this is not working. And packing, and then trying to find a place to live. And so I'm sitting here talking to 2 beautiful ladies, and I still cannot believe I did all that I did. And as a writer, I'm very slow. It takes me a good, 6 to 8 hours for one paragraph. And this book came out very quickly. It's kind of like, yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's a beautiful, beautiful book.
I can't wait.
About my character. My character returning to my beloved Russian River before things went crazy.
Mm-hmm.
My mom,
let's talk about, because you're getting into something I really am interested in. So if I recall correctly from the first book, you go very in depth about the last really good memory you had, and it was Russian River. Mm-hmm. Can you tell our listeners about that memory and what drew you back to it?
I had, well, let's kind of look at this in a different scope. The cover of the book I had designed and commissioned. It's like I was the co-producer of the book. It was in the summer of 1966 at the Russian River. I am 5 years old. I get out of kindergarten early. We run up the little hill. Station wagon's packed. We're going across the Golden Gate Bridge, and I'm like a dog. I go, oh my God. Hey, what's going on? My brothers are asleep. We go into this town on this one-lane bridge, the Trestle Bridge, and it was the most amazing summer of my life. Things were getting kind of out of control. And two things happened in the summer of 66 that changed my life. One, I took a walk with my father. After we did the dinner dishes, Father would always want his alone time and have a cigarette and walk around this block with redwood trees. And sometimes you can just smell the sweetness of the redwood trees. And it was a gravel road, and he heard me, and I thought he was going to yell at me and say, get home, get out. And we just walked together. I don't even think we held hands. The next moment I had that's very hard.
Yeah.
We went past Mr. Parker's house before the sun set.
Mm-hmm.
And the river was green and still. You can hear the birds, see the smell or hear the swaying of the redwood trees, 150 feet tall.
Yeah.
And the sky was laced blue and orange. And somebody touched me, and I thought it was Dad. And I flinched because it was my mother. And things were getting very bad. I'm already living in the basement. Right. I'm the family slave. I'm exiled. Mm-hmm. And she brought me into her chest. And I swear to you, I thought I can feel her heartbeat. I remember smelling her shampoo hair. She had pearl shampoo. And for a moment, we were bonded. And that's one of the moments when things were very bad, I would always try to go to. Mm-hmm. And I knew as a child that things got very bad. I was maybe 9 or 10. I think Mark Twain said the coldest winter I ever spent was in the summer of San Francisco. And we lived just south of San Francisco. My father was a firefighter in San Francisco, but we lived in Daly City. My mother actually kicked me out of the house. And one Saturday, I wasn't a member of the family. I'm tired of looking at it. It is the cause of all our problems, blah, blah, blah. My father was a passive observer. He was broken. And I said, F this, you want to kick me out? Yeah, bye-bye. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I ran, and I had my plan. Total mission impossible. Dun, 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 dun.
I can hear it.
I was going to crawl under the Golden Gate Bridge. Mm-hmm, right.
Oh, sure.
I didn't know the name of this town. And I was going to find the Gville town, and I was going to live under that bridge. And in the summertime, I can be one of those guys at the beach that puts up the umbrella or, help you out and get a couple nickels. That was my master plan.
Brilliant.
How old were you?
I got as far as 2 miles.
Okay. Sure.
I was probably about maybe 9 or 10.
9,
okay.
Yeah.
I'm a skinny boy with no shoes and, bare thin shorts.
And it's cold. It's cold in San Francisco at this point. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's scenes in the book that kind of open up a lens of what happened here and what happened there from an adult perspective. And it's a very loving book about family dynamics, because then there's a battle royale scene because everybody says, why did your mom abuse you? Or what made her flip out?
Yeah.
And there's several scenes about my mother just getting beaten up every day on the phone from her mother. You're not good enough. You're going to hell in a handbasket. I told you not to get pregnant. Mm-hmm. You're doing everything wrong. Mm-hmm. Wow. And there's a scene where my grandmother comes over to the house after my parents separate, and they start fighting, just the sickness of the yelling, and it stops. And all of a sudden the door comes open. I'm in the bottom of the basement. The light flips on. I'm sitting on my hands like a caged animal. My mother basically says, see, I told you it was there. Are you happy now? And my grandmother says, that's the most sorriest child I've ever seen. And my mother says, that's what you used to say about me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's starting to
so
make
kind
sense.
of like that
I wondered.
Darth Vader thing. So I'm saying is we wrap everything up. We talk about my father being a passive observer. And there's a scene, I wish I was a film director. My parents separate, and it broke my heart. And my brothers got to go out to see dad and give him his box, cardboard box in the rain. And that was my moment. I was always wanting to escape, and I didn't have the strength to escape. And I had my hand on this handle to the door. You know, it's like 20 feet away. I can run. I can live in an alley. And by accident, oh my God, I opened the door just a crack. A second later, my father shuts it. And I never knew if he did it deliberately or it was just an accident. And there's a scene in which my father and I, an imaginary scene that I just yell at him and say, "Why weren't you there?"
Right.
You always said, "One of these days I'm gonna." You wait. One of these days I'm gonna have a talk with that woman, and you just watch. I'm gonna talk to you. Watch out. I'm gonna take care of this. And it never happened.
You just wanted to go with him in that moment. Like, this is my
either
chance.
with him or just away.
Right.
You know, and after years of one of these days, it never came. So there's a scene in the book that I kind of just like mentally in a dreamlike state, just like, God damn it, what happened? You know, you're a firefighter, you rescue strangers, and you never took my hand.
Yeah.
You never took my hand.
Right.
So it has all these components, and it's really a beautiful love story in so many different levels. And it's actually, as a writer, you know, it's my best writing. I was talking to a friend yesterday, and she said, "Wow, I read your new book, and you really have changed the scope from A Child Called It to this." I said, "Well, the scope of A Child Called It was, as a film director, per se, it was written by an 8-year-old boy.
Right.
Graphic, fast-paced, very visual, because that's how boys at that age think.
Yep.
So as my character develops, I have to open up the lens differently."
Yeah.
That's just beautiful writing, Dave. Beautiful writing. So I did creative nonfiction a bit in college, and it's so incredibly difficult. Anybody who says I'm going to be a writer, they don't know what that takes. By the way, not everybody can just be a writer.
I don't even know.
No, and that's why I think you're a good writer, because you still don't know, which makes you evolve.
It's like making a new recipe. You got to try it out and do this and do that. But again, I remember before I was rescued, I wrote a book report, you know, because that's what I would do is I would bring home extra homework so my mom wouldn't abuse me so much, you know, because she thought no one will find out about the secret. And I remember one time Miss Woodworth, who's since passed, she says, "You're a good boy." And I just soaked it up like a sponge. Oh, my God. And she says, "You know, you can be a writer." Because I remember, you know, reading these action books, and in foster care, the book that changed my life was Mice and Men by Mr. John Steinbeck.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Tender Rabbits.
Fantastic writing.
No one will bother us. And before my father passed away, physically in front of me, moments before he passed, I told him the most whopper of a lie, and he had to know it was a lie. I said, Dad, I got the cabin. I've been saving money in the Air Force. We're going to get the cabin at the Russian River, and no one will ever yell at us. We'll have a fireplace in the winter, and we'll barbecue in the summer. I mean, that was like a fantasy within a fantasy, and he had to know. I was only 19, for God's sake.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But I'm very pleased that I'm broadcasting this show on you at the Russian River.
Are you really?
Oh my gosh. That is
so
amazing.
you're in your happy place right now.
I'm in the happy place. I know that you don't. It's amazing.
To be able to go out someplace and just breathe it in. Like, you described it so perfectly.
I have a deck. It's 6 feet by 4 feet. I got all these plants. And 5 feet away, it's like I live in Jurassic Park, the redwood, the moss. I'm Mr. Davy Doolittle. I feed the squirrels. We actually converse. I got the hummingbirds, the blue jays, and whatever. And what's great, and this is where, ladies, get your tissues. My fantasy was to have 4 generations at the Russian River and take a photo of this cabin that we used to stay at.
Yeah.
And guess what? I did that.
Oh,
I had
amazing.
my father's badge in my back pocket.
Oh.
When he died, that's the only thing he had. The only thing, because he gave my mom every cent of his check. He was homeless. So I have my father's badge that I flew with every Air Force mission. Anytime I did an in-service training, go overseas. My son was born, I carried my father's badge. As a fire captain, I carried my father's badge, and I had my own badge. So there is a photo of me walking with my grandson, holding his hand. My son's holding his other hand, and we're posing posing by the cabin.
I love that.
Oh, that
And
is beautiful.
and here's where it gets really thick.
Okay.
I'm not even 100 yards away from that cabin
Okay.
That is
right now.
amazing. Mm-hmm.
Does it
You
still
see,
exist?
it's like, God blesses you, and you have to work to appreciate those blessings. I always tell people, when you're down and you think you can't go on, and suddenly you get 2 texts in an hour, and it says the same damn thing. Oh my God, that is God knocking on your door.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe in a period of 5 to 7 days, people out of nowhere call or text, or they bump into you and, how you doing? I'm thinking about you. I'm praying for you. That
Mm-hmm.
is God screaming
Mm-hmm.
at you. But I always tell people God is busy.
Yeah.
So don't wait for God to help you. Just allow yourself to experience the pain and the trauma, because that makes the victory of life all the sweeter.
Mm-hmm.
When did you forgive your dad? Do you feel like there was a moment?
It's weird because it's so much easier for me to forgive my mother, because she was just sick.
That
There
makes
was
sense.
nothing in the
Mm-hmm.
world that could have saved her, even in this day and age. My mother had 3 babies in less than 4 years. She was an alcoholic at the time, Day of Wine and Roses per se, and just beaten up by my grandmother. My grandmother was Darth Maul, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I forgive my mom because I understand that. My dad was just a very, very gentle person, and he didn't know how bad this cancer was. Why is the boy sitting in the corner? Well,
Mm-hmm.
he did this, he did that. Well, let's make sure he doesn't do that again.
Mm-hmm.
And then every month, why is he in the basement? Why haven't we fed him? One time, and this is very sad, my mother had me swallow ammonia once. I had no idea. Whatever, big deal. Man, that can kill you.
It
It
can.
closes
Yeah.
off your trachea and your esophagus, and you can die. I have a herniated esophagus and trachea to this day.
Yeah, it
24
caused
hours
permanent
later,
damage.
yes, it has. And it's weird because I have to speak at a different rate, and I always have to have like water
Yeah.
with me, and that's why sometimes my voice cracks. Not even 24 hours later, my father comes home from work, and then she shoves the ammonia in my throat. I fall down right in front of my father, still dressed in his fire utility outfit. And then at the last second, mother pops me in the back of my shoulder so I can cough up and breathe. And I'll never forget this. Irva, what has the boy done now?
Mm.
He's always trying to steal food. He's a food thief. Well, maybe if you fed him a little bit more, he wouldn't steal so much. Really?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Right.
Broke my heart. Broke
And-
my heart. And again, one of these days, I'm gonna have a talk with that woman. You watch, Dave. Oh, I'm gonna put my foot down. I don't know of the moment, forgiving him. Maybe what really kills me is I can forgive my mom for what she did to me.
Mm-hmm.
But my father was in a hospital dying of cancer. He was in the hospital for 4 to 6 months, completely alone. Not even his firefighter brothers. They thought he was dead or moved on, knew. And I was a young person in the Air Force. My mother finally broke down, called my foster parents. I was overseas. I flew back in. My father could not walk or talk or even communicate with his eyes. And I'm a 19-year-old child, and this is my first experience with death. And the fact that he was all alone, and I approached my mom right before he died. I said, your husband's in a hospital. Yes, I know. Shouldn't you see him? It would be too hard for me to see him. Woe is me.
Right.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And there's a part of me, as adult Dave, or my language,
No.
bitch, put on your best dress and goddamn, put on some makeup.
Yeah.
Comb
Right.
that rat nest of a hair. You're going to go see your husband. Just drag her in if need be, so he can be comforted. And the fact that he was alone, think about that, in solitary, knowing that you're going to die. I think that's when I had to forgive him.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
That makes sense.
And it's weird. It's a daily process, because here's the thing, and I'll slow down for your audience. When you forgive someone, you're empowering yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you become a hostage.
Yep.
You become a psychological hostage to all the crap and all the negativity, and it never, never stops. What kills me, ladies, is when people particularly are hurt or violated, and it destroys their life forever.
Mm-hmm.
I say, I survived to be happy, damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every time I eat, I feel like Tom Hanks in Castaway. Hey, what's it like? What's it like to be back there, buddy? You're back in. Woo! You're back from the island. What's it like? Tom Hanks smiles and says the ultimate line: "I have ice."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
time I breathe, I can look at myself in the mirror and I have nice teeth. Considering everything I've done against my body, I'm still in pretty good shape.
Right.
And every day I think I have a good attitude. I'm so damn lucky. And it just kills me when people like, oh my God, I was abused one time for 10 minutes or 50 years ago, and I'm still in misery. I'm going, no, you like that. Get out.
Right.
I hate
Right.
to say that.
You're holding yourself hostage.
You
Yep.
become a hostage.
Yep.
Here's the thing, too, and we forget this. Hi. I've never met anybody who says, hi, I'm Joe. I have cancer. I'm a victim of cancer. Hi, I'm Joe. I'm fighting cancer.
Right.
I'm a survivor of cancer. And I'm so grateful to be here.
Mm-hmm.
There's the difference. It has to come from the inside. Everything that happened to me, my arm was pulled out of the socket at age 4. The secret, okay? So I had to adjust that. My mom burnt my arm on a gas stove at age 8.
Right.
Blisters in the bottom of the basement. I raised my hand, which is hard because I got blisters from the palm of my hand to my bicep. And I basically said, I've learned a valuable lesson. I'm going to have to start fighting for myself. I got to think ahead. I raised my arm in a pledge, the Boy Scout Webelos pledge. And I said, I'm never going to quit. I'm going to give everything my best shot. And everything, I was rescued at age 12. I weighed about 64 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
My mother I thought she was going to kill me that weekend.
Yes.
You want to talk about
Mhm.
Mission Impossible?
Mhm.
Dun, dun, dun,
Yep.
things
Yep.
just came at the right place
At
the right time. And I've always kind of forced up myself into situations and out of situations. Again, as I said before, ladies, I'm the most blessed, luckiest person that I know. That's why I try. I do 3 nice things a day. I want to make people laugh 3 times a day. And I want to just kind of relax in my own little world.
Well,
And again, I'm broadcasting the show to you at the Russian River.
right.
That's so cool.
It sounds to me like you have figured out that what you put out into the world is what comes back to you. And
Well, there's a thing, and I don't mean to interrupt because I
No, go
forget
ahead.
where I heard this from. This one person said, the key to happiness is never you. The key to happiness is making your own happiness.
Mhm.
And the key to happiness is doing for others. And I swear to God, ladies, I purchased wings for foster homes. I purchased more cars than Oprah Winfrey on steroids. I sent hundreds of kids to Disneyland with hotel and money and everything. But now that my finances aren't what they used to be, I can see the homeless people and face to face and shake their hand and say, God bless you.
Mhm.
I go to Costco once a month. I spend hundreds of dollars on socks and blankets and coats in the rain for these people.
Mhm.
And it makes me feel so appreciative of the things in the life that I have now. You don't know what you have until it's gone. Hence COVID, hence freedom. Duh.
Right.
Every day is a blessing for me.
Dave, I want to ask you a question because we've been doing this for a long time too, and I want to keep you forever, especially because I know you're going to come back and talk to us
Yes.
again. You have a really unique perspective in terms of the foster care system. As you can imagine, and you did a little bit of research on both Charnell and I, so you know what we do. As you can imagine, we hear a lot of criticism about the foster care system and everything that's wrong.
And
with
I
it.
was a foster care worker. For
Right.
many
And
years.
I prosecuted those child abuse and neglect cases before my current position. So can you tell us a little bit about, I guess, why you feel about the foster care system, how you do?
Well, it's amazing. I remember doing the Oprah Winfrey show. And I remember I could not get her to laugh. At the end of the first segment, you stretch and get up and readjust. It's called the reshoot or something. And I did a Arnold Schwarzenegger joke in his voice. And the audience laughed because the first segment was so
Heavy.
so serious.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then I sat down. She goes, oh, my gosh, you are not in my book club, but your books are kicking butt. I had 4 books simultaneously on the New York Times bestseller list. She says, no one has the accolades. You have these accolades. And she said, my goodness, your parents must be so proud. And the audience went, oh, hey, back that off, okay?
Oh.
Oh.
I said, well, yes, my foster parents are very proud.
Mhm.
But you have to look at this. I'm a 12-year-old child who doesn't speak, has no currency, knows nothing about anything except for darkness and despair. And yet, I became a pretty good person. Duh, duh, duh. Really? Yeah. And think about it, too. I mean, foster parents, oh, yeah, they do it for the money. Let me quote a line from Jerry
God.
Maguire. Show me the money.
Yeah.
Show me the money. And, of course, all these social workers are nothing but Nazis and pumps. That's a fact, Jack. And they get a commission.
They get
every
a.
time
I
they kidnap a
love that
child.
one.
When they
love
kidnap
it.
a child, did you hear him?
Yes, when we kidnap children.
Yeah, okay, here's the thing. Here's where social workers go crazy. Easter, and let me see, what else? Oh, that's right, trick or treat, because they lay out all the candies, and then they knock these kids in the head and throw them in the van. Please.
Yes.
It's just, and part of the problem is, and we have to, again, the big picture, is it's so easy to criticize something you don't understand.
Yep.
You know, because sex sells. Anything sexy sells.
Mm-hmm.
You know, anything unusual found on Mars, a statue of Elvis. Really? Yeah, it says so. It's in print. No.
It was on the internet. It must be true.
I learned a lesson. There was this young lady. She was getting beaten up by the press. She was pretty, and they kind of doted on her a little bit. And they said, hey, you know what? Your last 4 films have flopped. You're a serial dater. You know, you're not that pretty anymore. And you know, blah, 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 blah. And your brother hates you because you won't allow him to be an actor in films. And the lovely Miss Julia Roberts just nods her head and says, well, you can say whatever you want, but I know in my heart what is true.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I mean, I could have been in jail.
Right.
Right.
My mother
Right.
actually wanted to put me in a mental institution
Right.
when I was in foster care,
Mm-hmm.
which was really, you know, I mean, I kind of gave up, okay, whatever. But if you look at how I raised my son and how he's raising his son,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's a valuable lesson,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
from foster care and services. Think about it. These people are so stupid. They take in a child that's battle damaged and try to attempt for a sense of normalcy.
Right.
My
Yes.
God.
Yes.
It's just, and it's you know, it's hard for me to explain the dedication and compassion that I've received. You know, and I remember living in one home 6 times. They closed down a foster home. They put you into the juvenile hall.
Right.
And I just, you know, I had different experiences. But if you look at hopefully the person I am today, you have to credit my time. Because think about it, from age 12 to age 18, you know, those years, you know, my brain was developed, of course, but my body was like 4 years behind, which
Yeah.
is great at my age now.
Right.
Right.
He's like,
Oh,
I look
yeah, like-
fantastic. I'm clearly
Yeah.
in my early 50s.
Right.
Oh my goodness! But I'm just trying to convey, you know, it's like anything. Everybody hates cops. Cops are bad and they're thugs, you know, and yet everybody loves the firemen. Oh my God, what a sexy job that is!
Yeah.
We had a small little fire in 2017. You might have heard of it, called the Tubbs Fire. It started 30 miles away, and somehow the embers landed in north of a place called Santa Rosa.
Oh
Yep.
yeah. Okay. Yep.
5,800 homes burned in 3 hours or less.
Wow.
I'm proud to say that we were one of the first engines on the coast to come in to help out. And they said, oh, you firefighters, you saved us, you saved us. And you know, they kind of, yeah, thanks, we're cool. I said, bullshit. It was those police officers that went door to door to door to door in the middle of the night, in the middle of the fire. It was lava.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It was lava.
Mm-hmm.
It was,
Evacuating.
so it's always, you want to be Steve McQueen. You want to be quite cool about your job. And that's what social services and foster care provides. It's a job I would never want. I can never accept that mission. Tommy Cruise can never accept that mission.
You know, and what's funny about you saying that is the number of people who either mentioned to us or who have commented that your books are the reason that they went into the field that they went into.
Yep.
My sister,
Well, I
again, who's a
apologize
huge,
about that.
right, absolutely.
Way to go, Dave.
Well, my sister was in undergrad, and at the time she was studying child development, and I think your book was actually assigned. It's why she read the
It
first
is.
one.
Yeah, it is in a lot of places.
And then from that, one, she became like your biggest fan ever. Like I said, she just freaking loves you and everything that you stand for with the resiliency part. But she also decided because of it that social work's not for her. She's a nurse.
Yeah.
So, and she's a fantastic
Oh.
nurse.
Yeah.
She's a hospice nurse.
and-
She does end of life care.
Oh my goodness, that is and there's one thing too I want to stress here, and this is important for your audience. And I've had to learn this lesson too, and I still learn it on a daily basis. No matter what we do, because again, there's going to be some pressures involved in the next few years. People are still adjusting to COVID world. With all the work that we try to do for our families and our friends, and when you put on your big boy pants, and you're going out against the hurricane of life, it's so important to take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That is, I mean, having that glass of wine, or just take the vacation, or a nap,
Yeah.
or just shut the door and say, get out, run amok, do your thing, but leave me alone. It's so, because what it does too, we can settle the mind, clear the mind, reduce some tension, and then get ready for the next battle. Because again, it's always going to be something.
Mm-hmm. There's always going to be something.
I love that you mentioned self-care, and you did the ultimate in self-care. You are literally reporting from the place that is your happy place. It's like how you started your journey.
Yeah. And you'll see that's how we kind of ended the book, in which my character, against all odds, finally finds the utopia. As a matter of fact, I used to live in, it's called the Village, the Brava Village. It's these little townhomes in the Guerneville area, which is connected to Riverside Drive, where my cabin used to be. And I got it at the right place at the right time, and everything fell into place. And that's why sometimes you kind of let go and let God in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Do as much as you can, for as long as you can, for as many as you can. But then you got to kind of take a step back, and sometimes you have to take that leap of faith. You have to attempt to try.
Yes, yes. I would like to share with you my own personal story here that I think you might find intriguing. It goes along with that. You mentioned earlier about like God sending you signs and signals and, putting things in the right place in the right time.
In the universe, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So the first time that I read A Child Called It, I had actually just recently accepted, this was back in 2010, I think it was, and I had just accepted a position with the state of Michigan, that's where we're from, to be a Child Protective Services investigator. And I read your book and thought, wow, I in our county, I bet I'm never going to see something that tragic, all right? I'm not even kidding you. 2 days later, I was assigned what I have called the rest of my life at this point in time, my own Child Called It case. And I found it extremely divine that I had read your book and had this, this particular child wasn't called a name. It was actually so bad that they tried to, his mother had passed away, and dad and new stepmom had tried to remove the mother's name from his birth certificate. That's how bad they wanted to erase her. But he was not allowed out of, to be a part of the family. Very, very similar to your own story. And I do feel like your book helped prepare me for and gave me the courage of I can help this kid, because they were his parents, his stepmom and his mother were very intimidating people. They tried anyway. At that time, Megan was the prosecuting attorney on our abuse.
I prosecuted that case criminally also.
Yes, exactly. And so that child, he was 14 at the time. He wanted to wear a shirt that said, "I love my investigator," on it, because I was the one that had removed him, of course, and Megan was the one that prosecuted
And
it.
Dave, let's be honest, you've seen Charnell. She's this beautiful blonde little angel. And so he's probably like, this is the sweetest, most beautiful person in the world. She's saving me. And boy, is she pretty.
Well, I gotta tell you a quick story, because again, when I was 12, I had the body of like a 6-year-old, but the mind of a 20-year-old. And I'll never forget my first crush. Of course, I want to say Jane Seymour from James Bond, because that was the first movie I ever saw. Was Roger Moore, Live and Let Die. And by the way, he was one of the judges for the 10 Outstanding Young Person of the World Award that I received.
Oh, that's so
In
cool.
part because of him. But my first crush was Miss Gold. She was 6 foot 18 inches, blonde hair, beehive, everything about her. She was so beautiful. she floated. She didn't walk. Some women are so, they just like they float. The gravity does not apply to them.
And she
And
was
of
your
course, she was
social
the first-
worker, right?
She was my social worker, and she was the first one I remember I threw up on psychologically. I just told her everything, you know, and she was the one that reinforced me that, hey, you didn't deserve this. You're not thinking on your parents, but, you know, you have to trust me. And I said this in the book, Return to the River. There's a line that just stops it. I wasn't built for trust. And yet she was the person that I can trust. And I do not have a photo of her anymore. I think I had one as a child, but you move around in foster care, you keep things in a, if you were smart, not in the paper bag, but in the pillowcase, you know, grab and go. But it's amazing, you know, in the course of a life, what events may transpire and how lucky you are. And it's so important. Again, this is going to be a long road for all of us listening to this show on self-empowerment and bettering ourselves. And at the same time, being respectful for everybody who is in the field of trying to attempt to help others out. Not a day goes by I do not think of that woman. Unbelievable.
That's beautiful. And so I did child protective services. Then I was a foster care worker. Then I went to a special unit that handles abuse in foster care. And so it's nice to hear that, because there are times, Dave, for sure, where and I speak of this sometimes on the podcast as well, where the kids, you know, they don't want to be removed. They don't look at you as someone who's helping. They are so brainwashed, and that they look at you as the person who ruined their life.
That's all they know.
Yes.
Well, it's consistency and comfort, right?
Like, I thought there was always one kid in the family that happened to be the bad child. No, that's one kid on the neighborhood, one kid in the block, or one kid in the state, one kid in the whatever. And it just happened to be me. But then as I matured, I'm saying, well, I try to do 1,000 chores in 5 seconds or less. I'm trying to chase your approval. Look, I got an A+ in school. You know, you try. And that sometimes too, you know, you have to be in that safe place that you can start to think differently. And again, everything in my life has been timing and tumblers. Right time, right place. When I said I was burned on the gas stove at age 8 and I decided to raise my hand and be proactive, 90% of our psychological makeup is at age 8 to 10. Our place in the world, which we want to become, what our beliefs. At age 4, when my mother pulled my arm out of the socket, those are the maternal years of trust.
Yep.
Between, particularly within a mother and child. And that's when I realized, what? Because the next day she woke me up and she said, oh my God, you don't remember this, but you fell off the bunk bed. And I heard you screaming, and I ran and put on my robe, opened up the door, ran down the hallway, opened up the boys' bedroom door, and you just slipped right through my fingers.
Why do you think she did that?
Hang on, Agent Scully. I'll tell you why. Because the truth is out there.
I love it.
Because she said the same thing to the doctor when he put my arm back in the socket, but more dramatic, more, I'm ready for my test, Mr. Denise.
Right.
Right.
Well, what fantastic acting. Agreed. But she didn't try to do that with the ammonia.
The thing is, I remember when we came home, my arm's in a sling. Barbara, what happened to the boy now? Oh, he fell out of the bed. Woe is me. You're never here. You don't understand. Oh my God, what's a mother to do? And you know what he did? Back in the day, father would give us a nickel or a dime. He reached into his pocket, he pulled out a dime. And you know what? He accidentally dropped it. It's 127 feet per second until something stabilizes. So excuse me. Sorry, I'm Columbo for a second. Meets Cosmo Kramer from Seinfeld.
Right.
You're telling me, Mrs. Pelzer, that you heard your boy screaming. You jumped out of your bed. You opened up the closet. You put on your robe. You opened up the door. You ran down the hallway. You opened up the door to the bedroom door, and he slipped right through your fingers. Does that make any freaking sense?
None.
None. Yeah.
But yet,
exactly.
Not with the space-time continuum,
actress,
Dave.
Right.
Actress. she's acting, and she thinks everybody's going to believe it. And for a
Right.
while they did.
Right.
And that was my normal world. But
Mhm.
everything that happened to me, against me, I was able to somehow figure it out.
Did she ever have a
And that's,
diagnosis?
again, luck. I'm sorry?
Did your mom ever have a diagnosis at all?
Ladies, you're missing the train. No, I mean it. There weren't even laws
No.
to protect kids, or those
Oh, for
trying to
sure.
protect kids. They never brought her up on one single charge.
Oh yeah, I just wondered if later in life anything would ever
no,
happen.
no,
Yeah,
no.
that doesn't
And it was
surprise
really,
me.
it's sad because as a young man, I was 27. My boy was about a year old, and I'm going from one Air Force base to another across the country. And I actually stopped outside of Salt Lake City, Utah, and I interviewed my mother for over 4 hours.
Oh wow.
Really?
Yeah. I remember afterwards, I got in the car and drove and threw up.
Yeah.
But I did
Sure.
something that was kind of smart. I planned it. I didn't think I was going to be able to do it. At the end of the interview, and she didn't even know she was being interviewed, the same 7 questions over and over, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
And what I did is I went to tie my shoes. So I got off the chair, and she's in a chair above me. And here's a woman that was very controlling, PTA director, the prettiest woman on the block, beautiful home. And she's sleeping in her urine-infested chair.
Mhm.
She sleeps there. She has 2 TVs that are on at all times. She's grossly overweight, out of shape, a chronic alcoholic with bottles and bottles and bottles of empty bottles of vodka around her. She became a prisoner of her own world.
Mhm.
The house has yellowness to the walls because of the cigarettes, the drapes. I mean, it's a disgusting dungeon.
Mhm.
I think I lived in a dungeon myself as a kid.
Right. Right.
She's become a prisoner. And here I am. I'm tall, working out, good shape. I'm flying for the United States Air Force. I was a war hero, for Christ's sakes. I have a beautiful family, and I did the ultimate thing. I bowed down before her with body language. I tied my shoes,
Mhm.
and I was going to, I can't seem to forget, what am I doing here? I stupidly asked her in a broken sentence, was there a time that maybe it could have gone too far? And immediately, David, you have to understand something. I was planning on killing it the summer of 1973.
Oh my God.
They took it away from me March of 1973. The only problem I had, David, was where to hide its body, David. Now, we know in psychology it's a personality trait. It's an imaging thing. You address the subject not in human terms,
Yep.
but in subhuman terms,
Right.
because that gives you a layer of protection.
Mm-hmm. Got to
Ken Lay from
dehumanize.
Enron he dropped, had a sudden stroke heart attack when they said, "Hey Ken, you took all this money, burn in hell, butthead."
Mhm.
And he finally felt it, and it killed him.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It killed him. That all that suffering and all that pain, and yet my mother, had already planned it out. Again, I was so lucky. I
Yeah.
was so lucky
You are.
that at the right time, at the right place, the Mission Possible team rescued me,
Mm-hmm.
gave me love, gave me advice, and I got to live a different life.
And you
And
chose
again,
to
I keep
follow
saying
it.
this over and over, a blessed life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But a lot of that, as we're going on and getting to know you, Dave, a lot of it absolutely has to do with your choices and your mindset. You have chosen to focus your life just so
Yes.
differently from what others have, and that is
And
such an important
that's the F word I give to the kids because I'm doing a program. I do a lot of gratis work, and when I speak at the juvenile halls, or I just did a thing last week with the foster care in San Mateo County where I was rescued. I said, "Here's your F word: focus, focus, focus.
Mm-hmm.
Where the hell are you at?
Yep.
Where
Yep.
the hell are you going?
Yep.
And how are you going to get there?" Because I say, look around you. I said, these social workers, these counselors and therapists, they're stupid because they can make 6 times more money doing something else. The person, the person that is in your face demanding greatness from you is the one that really cares about you. But you have to carry the load.
Yeah.
I think differently as a firefighter, chief of the Air Force, in-flight emergencies, flying for the Air Force. And I've, again, forest cut myself in and out of situations. And I just break things down into small little pieces. And I say, no, no, no. You don't need to go around the horn on this. Are you pregnant? Do you have cancer? Are you happy? What? Well, there it is.
Yeah.
You got to break it down and keep it simple because, again, there's so much stuff coming down the pike, like Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. The first scene, oh my God, watch out, Indy. There's this giant ball that's going to crush you, so you better move your ass.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like that every morning.
Right, right. Get out of bed, Charnell. There's a giant ball about to crush your ass. Yeah. Yes, I love
ladies,
it. Keep moving
I think
forward.
that's our time.
I think
that's
so.
All right.
Yep.
It
It's
is.
just like a date. I got to end the date on a high note. Otherwise, I'll screw this up.
Right. Us too. But before you hang up on us, can you plug your newest book again, where people can find it, which I'm sure is everywhere because Amazon is not just a river anymore.
It is just, it's everywhere. And it's the book, and it's such a romantic title. It's called Return to the River. And,
Beautiful.
And we do a podcast show. I think it's called the Dave Pelzer Show. It's a pretty good show.
Okay.
I'm still working on that. I'm going to work on airing one this week if I can. I've just been very busy. And there was a possibility where we were supposed to be in production for a child called it as the movie.
Oh,
this
okay.
fall, but there's a writer's strike.
Right.
And I got to tell you, the person I feel really bad for is Tom Cruise because he was supposed to make Mission Possible 7 and 8 together. And then COVID hit, and they were going back to production. Now there's a writer's strike. Oy.
Oh,
But,
right.
and that's the one thing too, is it's in my contract with the movie, is I wanted my teachers to walk the red carpet,
Oh.
do a fundraiser for every time we premiered it. But some of my teachers have passed on, but they've had children, so we want to do something respectful for them.
Amazing.
And hopefully, if Mrs. Gold is still out there and listening to me,
yeah.
maybe we'll pick her up in a nice limo. Okay.
Right. You're just such a beautiful soul, Dave. I love it. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on
No,
our
ladies,
show.
I want to thank you for all your hard work because the great ones always make it look easy. The great ones are always pretty on the outside, but inside they're the ones crying and they're the ones that are a little bit battle damaged. And I'm just grateful to be a guest on your show, and I would like to maybe, if you want, maybe do another show or two if you want. We'll do something on
100%.
comedy, for goodness sakes.
Absolutely.
Dave, we do some good comedy pieces
We
too.
do.
We would be happy to have you on for a feel good episode.
Mhm.
I've been blessed to do my best comic show I did was in Kuwait, for goodness sakes, and I'm known to do voices. And I remember I was with President Reagan one time, and he put his arm around me and he said, "Do me." And at first I thought,
Mr. President, I've never.
and I looked at his staff, and they shrugged their shoulders. And he says, "I hear you can do my voice. Do me now." And I was so nervous. I did a great Reagan, but I couldn't do Reagan at the time. So he said, "Can you do President Bush Sr., who is in the White House?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I can do that." He says, "I'll do Reagan, you do Bush." And he kind of like shaking himself and like getting into character. And so he did Reagan, I did Bush, and like when I meet people, they want me to do their voice. So I had to, again, with the Arnold Schwarzenegger thing, "You're the guy that does my voice." When he was governor, he said, "Pelzer, what'd you think of that?" I said, "Arnie, I love you, but vernacular, most spectacular, vernacular." All right. Maria, get me out of here. Give me to the chopper. Or I got a chance to meet Mr. Williams. I was recording one of my books in Robin's studio, and I physically bumped into the guy. And you always want to be respectful and be very private to some of these people. But we actually did a Robin Williams off. And he said, "I won." And he said, "We have to stop because I'm about to spot myself." And that was before cell phones. So can you imagine me on my knees looking at the guy going, "Yeah, I did that."
You're right. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, we always end every episode with what we call a brain bath. And so we tell a funny story. We read a funny news article, something like that. And then
Our listeners sometimes tell us
Yep,
stories or
their
give us
own-
anecdotes as well that
their
we'll
own
share.
funny stories. And then for our paying subscribers, we do a whole episode that's just a brain bath episode. And sometimes we go so far off the rails. So we would love to have you on for one of those episodes. That would be
Well,
amazing.
I'll tell you, write this down for your notes. I've got two great stories for you. One, I almost killed Clint Eastwood. Two,
First of all,
Two.
that should be the title of your next book.
Right.
and the second story is my last visit to the White House.
Oh my.
Oh, okay.
I'm so
Yeah.
intrigued.
Yeah.
All right. That's what we're going to cover next time for sure.
All right, and don't forget, send me your addresses so I can send you a book.
Absolutely.
We would love to.
Okay, and tell your sister I said hello.
Dave, could you say hello, Alyssa?
Let me. As how about this?
Make
is she
it
a fan
sexy.
of Arnold or is she a fan of Clint Eastwood?
Probably. She's going to go with Clint for sure.
All right, sweetheart. Well, Melissa, I'm 93 now and between wives, so give us a call and we'll go ahead and make my day.
That's fantastic.
Oh, gosh.
She'll love it.
Well, on that note, Dave.
I know he left us all warm.
Yeah, we're fanning ourselves over here. Oh, shoot.
Ladies, seriously, it's been my honor and my pleasure. And please, if I may, keep up the great work. You're doing a fantastic job, and you're
Thank
saving
you.
generations. This is a long-term event.
Yes.
A
We hope
long-term
so.
event.
Yes. Thank
It's
you
going to get
so
a little
much.
rocky.
Yeah,
So thank
that's
you for all
sure.
the work that you do. And let's talk soon, okay?
Absolutely. Thank
Bye,
you so
Dave.
much,
It was a
Dave.
pleasure.
Take care.
God bless you, ladies.
God
You
bless you
too.
too.
Bye-bye.
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 All right. Well, we hope that you guys enjoyed that interview that we did with Dave. It was truly our pleasure to have him on. And I'm still so awestruck.
I know, I'm kind of awestruck,
I'm
too.
awestruck right now. So
And
I
what
feel
a
like
great
he
way to
gave us a
end.
brain bath.
He
That,
kind of did. Like, so going over, parts 1 and 2 with his story and then just really hearing from the man here at the end. I think
This has been an amazing series to cover. Thank you to everyone who recommended it for us. We've had several. There's like too many of you guys to even name because several of you have recommended that. And for whatever reason, Megan, one Saturday morning, I was starting to research his case and just looked up his public relations and said, let's send him an email,
And
if
see
he'd
what
be willing
happens.
to be on the show.
So she
And
tells me this, and I don't figure we'll ever hear anything from, such a big star, a big writer. And I know Dave doesn't think of himself that way, but
No,
he really
but
is.
He's a brilliant man.
And I walked in one day, and you're like, guess what?
By the way,
Here's the 4 dates that are possible. Pick one so we can talk to Dave Pelzer. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me right now?
Yeah,
Is this
yeah.
our life?
yeah, I'm fangirling
A little
like
bit.
big time over
little
here.
bit.
Yeah, I kind of can't believe this is what we do. So that's amazing. And you guys, I just really hope that you enjoyed this. Feel free to share this episode with others that are fans of Dave because he's got a lot of great work out there.
I'm
and
buying
new-
that book. I
Oh,
can't
yeah.
wait to read it.
Yep, and get his new works out there. So, and I would love to continue to have him on to promote his newest stuff because he's going to keep creating, most definitely. So, all right, y'all. Thanks so much for hanging in with us.
Keep it
and
curious.
Keep it curious. Bye
Bye-bye.
bye.